This video response is going to go out to Danica McKellar, and that's because you published this book entitled Math Doesn't Suck. Now, at this very moment, I am running a live stream right now. I'm looking at you in I have this Kodak Easy Share camera, and that's how I'm looking at you now, but I'm also running a live stream, and I have my laptop right next to me, and so that's why I'm looking back and forth. Anyway, I'm going to review the introduction of your book here and now, and I'm going to take, this is going to be the first of a series of videos reviewing Math Doesn't Suck. And I'm going to go ahead and review it and let you know what I think about it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what my thoughts are about the introduction to your book, and let's see how we go. Alrighty. Now, I can certainly comprehend why you dreaded mathematics while you were young, because I was, let's see, fresh out of high school when you were starring in the Wonder Years, so I wasn't as far away from your grade school education. I mean, I was just like maybe, I wouldn't say maybe more than 8 or 9 years older than you were, so I know what education was like in the late 70s and the early 80s. And let me see, yes, I've got this right here. One of the biggest reasons why education, especially mathematics, was so bad was because they never told us about this. This is Euclid's Elements. Of course, this is the only reason why it was that bad, but this is one of them. Another reason why education was so poor at that time is because nobody recommended reading this to everybody. It's called The Memory Book by Harry Lorraine. And for my live stream people, I'm going to go ahead and show you both. This is Euclid's Elements. This is actually, there are 13 books to Euclid's Elements. They have them in a 3-volume set. That's why I have this here. And this is The Memory Book by Harry Lorraine. But I can now see why you are having so many problems in junior high mathematics. I'm sure you didn't know about that at the time. I certainly did not when I was going through school. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know about this stuff until I was probably a junior in high school before I knew all this. And that really... Well, I didn't know about Harry Lorraine's memory techniques, but I certainly did know about Euclid's Elements. I just couldn't translate the dang thing. There's a lot of intensive vocabulary to Euclid's Elements. Anyway, let's get past that. Alright. Now, I personally was not aware until I read this book that you attended a regular school when you were pursuing your acting career. I thought maybe you had a school coach that worked with you on set. I did not know you actually went to a regular school. I also wish you had been more specific about the degree you acquired in college. Did you specialize in a certain type of mathematics? I'd like to know. Okay. Now, you said later on, as you were progressing through the years, you actually changed your mind about mathematics. Who helped you change your mind? And how did the transition actually happen between you dreading mathematics and actually now starting to love mathematics? I mean, was it a gradual transition? Was it just all of a sudden, ping, I know mathematics now? I'd like to know that. Okay? Now, can an in-depth knowledge of algebra and geometry build up confidence and self-esteem in human beings? That actually is true. I will give you that. But saying that algebra and geometry can fix other things, well, not so much. Let's take a look. Let's start with a simple pair of shoes. Now, not too long ago, I'd say about a year ago, probably not even that long, probably more like 6 or 7 months ago, I bought a pair of athletic work shoes. And they were a white pair of athletic work shoes, and I actually covered them on my YouTube channel. I actually ended up buying 2 pairs because I thought, well, okay, the first time they were flawed, they were not made very well, okay, we'll give them one more chance. When I gave them one more chance, it didn't work out, so I finally had to buy a pair of Skechers. But I really didn't like paying $50 and $60 for shoes. I've really been kind of opposed to that. Even $35 is not that unreasonable. When you're talking $60 for one freaking pair of shoes, no, I don't do that. Not unless I have to. I honestly thought that buying this Athletic Works shoes for $20 would be a good price. But I quickly found out that the materials that we used to make the shoes was very bad. Also, I found out that the people that were making them, well, they just weren't trained very well. I have to say that, and I don't know if it was just them, or I'm sure there was some machinery involved in the making of the shoes. It was terrible. The shoes were just absolutely terrible. And algebra and geometry in itself would not have told me all this. I would have had to have done some more research beyond algebra and geometry to find out all this. So I don't think by itself it would fix a problem like that. It would show you how cheap the shoes were, but it also would not show you the denier of the shoes, or what materials it was made out of, or who was making them, that kind of thing. So algebra and geometry doesn't necessarily solve that kind of a problem. If you have to bake pastries, you have to consider more than just the ingredients that you're going to put into the pastries, okay? You also have to consider the people that are going to consume them, how many you're going to have, what are their preferences in pastries. Maybe not everybody likes a cookie. Maybe some people like cake or something else. So you have to really take all that into consideration too. Alright? Well, and you have to consider how much time you have to make these pastries. You're starting to make them and you realize you're going to have to change the formula. Do you have enough time to make that? Do you have enough time to change the formula? And if so, can you actually get to the store quickly enough to get the ingredients to go ahead and make the extra cookies or cakes or whatever the heck you're making? And algebra and geometry does not necessarily fix that kind of a thing either. I mean, it does help, but it doesn't fix it all. So, a lot more to consider than just the changing the ingredients. Now, I rarely watch sporting events of any kind. When I'm watching the Olympics, I'll watch Olympic curling, but as far as most other types of sports, not really all that interested, okay? If I do watch an event, I will consider more than what I see on the scoreboard. I really will. I will consider the players themselves, what their training was, what their health is, what their personal goals are, that kind of thing, because that can actually factor in to how well they score in a game. So mathematics in itself is not going to tell you the whole complete story. So again, that's not going to necessarily... Mathematics, including algebra and geometry, will never tell you all of that. So there you go. People like me work in retail, and social time is sometimes very difficult to acquire. I will give you that. And finances are not the only thing I consider when I am planning my free time. Okay, whether I'm going to take a trip or I'm going to have some kind of a social gathering, I don't just take into consideration my finances. I'll also take into consideration where I'm going to go, the destination, what I plan to do once I get there. Also, when it comes to gathering for a social gathering, I will consider the people that are going to come. What are their particular preferences in food and beverages and that kind of thing. I will take all of this extra under consideration too. So to say that algebra and geometry and other forms of mathematics is going to solve all that, no, it won't. So, yeah. Alrighty. Now, developing a sense of logic by means of studying Euclid's Elements can improve your overall cognitive skills and your cognitive abilities. That is absolutely true. But will logic alone help you remember things? Not really. Will logic help you read faster? Not necessarily. Can your intelligence be taken from you? Absolutely. if you suffer a brain trauma or a stroke or some other medical ailment, your mental capacity could be impacted. Absolutely. So, and I didn't read any of these kind of details in your book. Honestly, I looked through your book and I did not see any of this. And I was kind of wondering, are you going to put this kind of information in a subsequent book, which would be nice for you to do? I don't know. Now, when you are receiving attention for things that you don't consider important, and you had brought this up in your book, what you really need to do is you have to work harder on the things you want people to pay attention to. If you want people to pay attention to your singing voice, sing more often. If you want people to pay attention to your artistic abilities, draw more pictures, do more paintings, whatever. And then make it a point to show people this kind of stuff. And then they're paying attention to these kind of things rather than what they're right now paying attention to. You got to really bring that to the limelight, and it's not easy to do. I'll give you that. I know there's still a lot of people that don't know you publish math books like this, and that's regrettable, but it's true. But you know, the more math books you publish and the more you discuss them, the more likely they're going to notice. So anyway, it is well worth the work if you do something like that. Alrighty, now I just wanted to ask you, did you ever decide to take a course in calligraphy in college? Would you ever consider doing something like that? You know, and if you did take a calligraphy course, would you recommend it to others? I'd like to know that. In future videos, when I'm going to continue reviewing your Math Doesn't Suck math book, I'm going to implore you to actually take the time to review Euclid Book 10, because a lot of the content of Math Doesn't Suck refers to Euclid Book 5 and Euclid Book 10. I noticed that, especially when you're talking about ratios. There you go. Alright. So, yes, you will find an in-depth knowledge of ratios in books 5 and 10 of Euclid's Elements. That is absolutely true. I know I covered them both. I actually know more about Euclid's Elements than Abraham Lincoln ever did. Okay? And if you want to take a look at my coverage of both, you are more than welcome to come to my YouTube channel and take a look. Alright, so I'd like to know what you thought of this particular part of the review. I will go ahead and review the rest of your book at some point in the future, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let me know what you think. Leave your comments down here below. I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.